Well, I'm extremely excited to have Governor Jesse Ventura, former Minnesota governor, with us. He's also the star of the hit TV show, #1 new show on True TV, picked up for a second season. He's been out shooting in the last month, back from Mexico. A lot has happened behind the scenes. Of course, I'm not allowed to talk about it, and the governor, the head of the show, he can talk about as much of it as he wants, but it's been very interesting. I'll tell you this, I can't get emails because I'm consulting some on it, from home, from my employees' emails, to Tyrell and other people working on the show. So there's a lot of chicanery going on with the governor out there on the road because he's getting close to some really dangerous issues. He'll talk about the oil spill. We'll get into the economy, the wars, McChrystal, all of it today. Of course, his new book has been on the New York Times bestseller list for the last 2 months. It's available in bookstores everywhere. Jesse Ventura with Dick Russell, American Conspiracies. It's also available at Infowars.com. And he's not on the talk circuit right now. You know, a few times a year he comes out and does interviews. He's giving us this interview. He gave Larry King one a few weeks ago. And so I feel very honored to have the governor join us. Governor, great to have you.
Great to be here, Alex. No, I only did the Larry interview because they requested and that Oliver Stone was going to be on, and I thoroughly enjoy Oliver's movie making and his talent, and if we can go on that for a moment, he sent me a copy of his film. I think it's called South of the Border, the documentary, and I watched it. And as I said on Larry King, I urge everyone to watch this film because it's on Hugo Chavez and it's on South America, and it also covers how things that we're hearing here through our media are totally wrong from what the reality is down there.
Well, I know the media lied and said that Chavez had said that a U.S. weapon caused the Haitian earthquake, and then it did get retracted later, but a little bitty paragraph in the Washington Post, the New York Times, he never said that.
Well, the thing is about it, it's even bigger than that, Alex. It's a case of this. It's now clear to me, and don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-business, I'm not anti-anything, really. I'm a great believer in freedom. But it seems that any country that nationalizes their oil and nationalizes their natural resources and doesn't let our corporations go in there and, for lack of better terms, rape and pillage them, well, we then call that person a communist, a dictator, and we start working to oust them. I mean, we attempted a coup against Chavez back in '03, but the guy's been voted into office so many times you can't imagine. All the other South American leaders love the guy. He comes from a very modest background of being one of the people. He truly is. And let people be their own judge. But when Oliver and I were on the show, here comes Congressman, what's his name from Florida?
Ding Dong.
Baseball, Connie Mack. And he's advocating that this film should be banned. And I asked him, have you seen it? And he goes, no. That's the big picture, Alex, is that we're supposed to be a free country. You don't have to like Hugo Chavez, but you should at least have the ability to learn about the guy from alternative sources and not just what our government tells us about him.
Well, that's the Renaissance way, and I did watch the Larry King episode, and he did say, basically, ban it. And what an amazing anti-American statement. Even if I disagree with something, I think that, it should be available.
We don't ban things here. Banning things, that's ridiculous. We learn because we learn all about things and then make proper judgments, and we can all make them, but you certainly can't make them if you're not getting necessarily the whole truth or can't seek alternative methods of learning about stuff. If we rely solely on our government, Alex, and the mainstream soundbite media, we will be the most ignorant nation in the world.
Well, in many respects we are. Stay there, Governor Jesse Ventura. We'll be right back. All right, for the balance of the hour, Governor Jesse Ventura joins us for this exclusive interview. And we're going to get into the open announcements of the federalization of the Internet, the march towards war with Iran, We're going to cover Lieberman and McCain's bill to secretly arrest U.S. citizens outside of judicial law. And only an act of Congress can order your release or even find out where you are. We're going to discuss all of this today. And he's also had some really spooky things happen. I wish he could tell you more, but he'll tell you as much as he can. With his contract with True TV, he can't, ahead of the season, tell you what's happening with the production. But it is wild what is going on. So that's coming up later in the hour. But for folks that just joined us, Governor, you were getting into a few weeks ago when you did Larry King, one of the only interviews you've done since you got back from Mexico, and they had this congressman on calling for the censorship of this Oliver Stone movie about Latin American leaders, Hugo Chavez, and their systems of government. And whether you agree with the film or hate the film, you shouldn't call for censoring it. But you've seen the film. Break down why you think it's viewing that everybody should see.
Well, everybody should see it because Oliver shows clearly what the truth is, and then shows how our mainstream media completely lie to us. They tell us a completely different story about the truth of what's going on. And the other thing that's huge is that the South American people, all they want to do is control their own destiny. They don't want us meddling and attempting to do things down there that we've been doing for decades and decades. Like one of the leaders says, I'll be happy to have a United States military base in my country if they'll give me one by Miami. Now, isn't that fair? How is it that we can put military bases in all these foreign countries, yet they can't put any here?
Well, on top of that, we've got...
I mean, it's just things like that. And the other thing is, Alex, is they're now banding together 6 or 8 of the countries down there, and they're not going to do business necessarily on foreign policy with the U.S. unless Cuba's included. And I think that's a wonderful idea.
Well, the quickest way to bring more freedom to Cuba would be to end the embargo.
Absolutely. The embargo is a miserable failure. It doesn't hurt Castro or his brother a bit. The only thing it harms is the Cuban people. That's the only thing.
Let's talk about that. You have met Fidel Castro, and then you actually got followed by the CIA. Tell folks what happened when you were in Cuba, when you were governor, and the aftermath of that.
Well, it was just, I'm probably the only elected official who actually sat down with Fidel Castro, and I had an hour with him, and it was when he was in better health. This was back in 2002. Since then I've heard, it's only what I've heard that he's had health problems. But at the time I met him, he was sharp as a whip. I mean, you couldn't get a thing by him. In fact, when I was sitting with him, I only had an hour. I wore a watch, and I happened to just glance down at my watch to see that I had 20 minutes left. Castro was so perceptive immediately, and I just glanced. And when I looked up, he said, "I'm sorry, am I keeping you from something?" And I, of course, was honest. I said, "No, sir." I said, "But I know I only have an hour with you." And I glanced at my watch, and I see that I only have 20 minutes left. And I'd like to ask you some personal questions if I could. And he said to me, "Ask me anything you want." And so then I went in and asked him about the murder of John F. Kennedy, because it was something that I had studied for the better part of my adult life. And here I had a chance to talk to someone who was right in the middle of it, and who in some scenarios he was attempted to be blamed for it. And so I wanted to get his perception of what happened back then. And, if you're open-minded like me, I realized that to every story, there's going to be 3 or 4 sides to that story. And to fully understand the story, you need to talk to 3 or 4 sides. And that's the problem, again, getting back to our country today, Alex. We're not getting 3 or 4 sides. We're getting one.
Well, as you've said, we have the 2 parties that are really almost identical twins, and they give us basically different flavors of poison Kool-Aid. But at the end of the day, there's really no difference.
No, there's none whatsoever. It's all the stuff that's coming out, and then we'll transition now. Let's go to the show. We've been out shooting some episodes, and last week I spent the whole 2 to 3 days basically under surveillance by Homeland Security and tailed by the Coast Guard and all other sorts of stuff. And we weren't doing anything illegal at all. We were merely going somewhere to film something.
Well, they've got to know that Governor Jesse Ventura isn't going to stage a terror attack.
Well, I would think they wouldn't. I think that my record speaks for itself, that I love my country, but that I'm a firm believer, Alex, that before you go out and chastise someone like Hugo Chavez, that you should make sure that your own backyard is clean and tidy and up to snuff.
Can you even give people...
say that about the United States of America today. We have a lot of problems in our own backyard that we ought to take care of instead of meddling in everyone else's business.
Can you give people a hint as to the type of thing you were trying to get a look at?
Well, we just wanted to film a certain location in the country.